Okay. So, today we're going to talk about something new. A little bit different, a little bit more fun. Something that I do a lot. Something called an outline. Okay? An outline is something, it's a method of organizing your thoughts. You can apply it in a lot of different ways. You can use an outline to build thoughts. You can outline to explore thoughts. You can do it a lot of different ways. It's basically a way of writing something. So the basic outline is done with topics and indentions. Okay? So it's going to look something like this. Actually, let me do it this way. There's going to be a thought, and a sub-thought, and another sub-thought. And then sometimes you have another thought, and then maybe you have a sub-thought, and then another sub-thought. And maybe there's another sub-thought, and then there's a sub-thought, and then another thought. That's an outline. It's a way of organizing things together. It's a structure. What you use here as counting doesn't really matter. Some people use numbers, some use letters, some use both, some use Roman numerals that work really good for that. There are some reasons why you'd want to choose different plans, but what we're going to talk about this morning is how do you make an outline. We're actually going to make a couple, and then we're going to explore why it helps you to think about it. So, let me pull this away for now. Your basic structure we'll put over here. You have, it looks something like this. Okay? It's a method of indenting. By indenting, I mean everything that starts here is a primary thought. Everything that starts here is a secondary thought. And everything that starts here is a tertiary thought, meaning third level. Okay? So it's the indentation that is important, that sets your mind off to think about this is a separate thing. And this is all about levels. Okay? So let's just do an example outline. Let's do something like, how about our day? Let's outline our day. Our day. We do breakfast. Then we do school. Then we do chores. And then we do free time. Okay? There's a basic list of our day. But what if we want to put more detail up? For breakfast, let's say, actually, I prefer to go the other way. So let's do it the way that I prefer. I like to use letters here. And then here. We cook, and then we clean. Right? That's how you do breakfast. You do two things when you do breakfast. Well, what do you cook? How about you have choices? How about cereal or B would be eggs. And then, secondarily, we clean. These little a, little b. Okay, so big letters, numbers, little letters. Then we go to school. What do we do at school? We do our pledge. Then we do prayer. And then we have a lesson. And then we have questions. Okay? What about chores? Well, you have different categories of chores. You have home chores, and you have farm chores. Home chores. I need more room. This is why this is good to do on a computer. We have, let's say, trash, laundry, floors, and then back over here for farm, we have chickens, we have goats, we have sheep. What do we do for the sheep? We check water. We feed. So what we're doing is building an outline. When you look at this outline, you can see that there are levels of thought. And this is the important thing about it. First, we said, what do we do for our day? Well, we have breakfast, we have school, we have chores, and then we had free time down here. And then you ask, okay, that's fine, but I need more detail so I know what I'm supposed to be doing for the day. So tell me about breakfast. And this whole section is only about that idea. Nothing in here can be concerned with anything down here. This whole section is about that idea. And the same thing happens. Well, cooking, so anything that falls under cooking has to be about cooking. So it's the way of focusing your thought. Think of it like a focus. Like if you're thinking about your day at this level here, you're thinking about your whole day. But at this level, you're only thinking about whatever part of the day that you're focusing on. And then it gets more and more focused as you go through. So it's about focus. Okay? There's a reason for this. Here, we're documenting what we do for our day. Outlines are good for that. Because if somebody wants to come up and say, what am I going to do for the sheep today? You don't have to read through all of this stuff. You find, oh, that's a chore. Let's look under chore. That's a farm chore. Let's look under farms. Oh, there's sheep. And you can go right to it. It lets you look things up carefully because it's organized. I didn't have to read every one of these to see, is this about sheep? Is that about sheep? I know where to go because it's organized and it tells me exactly where to go. So it's a great way to organize things that you want to make easy to find. You could have whole paragraphs under each one of these. It's very useful for that. So when you're writing thoughts down, this is a great way to do it. If you're writing a list of things, this is a great way to do it. Outlines are great for that sort of thing. But there's another thing about outlines. Let's say a completely different kind of outline. That was documenting something that you want to be able to look up. I use outlines a lot for writing. Let's say we want to write a paper. And we want this paper to be about food. And we want to talk about good food. We want to be able to write about, here's what you need to eat to be healthy. Okay? So you start thinking, okay, what do I want to think about? What do I want to say? And your first level on this outline is, again, your major thoughts. What are 3 major thoughts you're going to want in this paper? What are 3 things you want to talk about? Well, if you're doing food, how about why? You want to explain to people, why do I care what I eat? Then, maybe you want to talk about the good foods. What are good foods? But then, maybe you also want to talk about bad foods. Okay, so that's interesting. Here's 3 major topics. It could be 3 paragraphs. It could be 3 pages. It could be 3 chapters. So now let's start to design our paper. Let's ask the question, okay, food, why? So what do I need to tell people about why they worry about food? Well, let's just start writing on some ideas. How about food is medicine? You can talk about that, how food is medicine. In the Bible it says that this plant shall be your medicine. You could also talk about how food has changed over time. The food we have today is not the same as the food that they had in the Bible. It's completely different food. Most people don't know that. They don't realize that. The bread you have today is nothing at all like the bread you had in the Bible. The wheat in the bread today is nothing like the bread in the Bible. So you can talk about how things have changed over time. You could also talk about how health is related to food. How when you eat good things, you get healthy. When you eat bad things, you get unhealthy. And then we come down, we thought about that a little bit. You could, at this point, you could add subtopics here. I just mentioned some. All those things I just mentioned, explaining this, could go underneath there. See? Food is medicine. You could put the Bible. Food has changed. You could use wheat as an example. Health and food. You could use examples. You could do studies. All sorts of things to prove this point. So what you're doing is you're writing down the things that you want to talk about. And now because it's an outline and it's not an actual paper, you can see, oh, I'm building a structure of how I'm going to explain this thing for people. Good food. One thing you can do is list good food. That's a pretty big thing. So maybe you need to describe each one. So here we're going to put fats. What fats are good? What fats are bad? How about, what's another good food? Protein. How about how it's raised? See what I'm doing? I'm writing down, as I come up with every thought, I'm writing down what it is about that thought that I care about, that I want to tell people about. 2, what about how it's processed? So you're kind of designing your paper. Without writing any words at all, you're listing out the things that you want to write about. You can do the same thing down here with bad food. So now, you can go back and say, you know what? This section is really too long. I don't want that to be the most of the paper. I want to be more talking about why. So I'm going to go back up in here, and I'm going to start adding more subtopics or subtopics to it. So you can design the feel of your paper. Do you want your paper to be mostly about why, with a couple of short lists of what's good and bad? Or do you want your paper to be mostly about what's good and bad, and just a little bit about why you care? You choose that at the outline stage. You don't sit down and start writing sentences and paragraphs. You'd never get done that way. What you do is you play with your outline. When your outline represents how you want your paper to be in proportion, in content, then you can go through and start actually writing the words that are going to be your paper. No, the focus isn't working. I'm going to have to work on that. There we go. The reason this is so important is because when I'm dealing with an outline, especially on a computer, I can change the feel of the paper without actually having to think about the words and the sentences and the punctuation and all the stuff that matters. That's detail that can come later. What's important is you think about, what am I trying to say? What do I want to tell people? Do I want to tell them why? And is my main point of why the fact that food is medicine, so there'll be 10 things under here and only 1 or 2 under here? What is important to me to let the reader know? That's what you're doing at the outline stage, is you're designing the paper. You're not actually writing it, you're designing it. You can do the same thing for a video. If you're making a video, is this going to be 2 minutes? This is going to be 20 minutes? And this is going to be 10 minutes? Meaning most of the emphasis in the video is about what is good food? Or do I want this to be 20 minutes talking about why you care and only 2 minutes on each of these? You see how it feels completely different now? This video is about why you care about food. And here's a couple of lists at the end that tell you what's good and what's bad. If you switch this, 2 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes, now all of a sudden, this is about what are good foods, what are bad foods, and a little introduction about why you care. Completely different. Exactly the same content, except that here, there's going to be a lot of things back here, and not very many up here. If you go the other way, like this, then all these go away. If I put 20 minutes here, then there's going to be a lot of detail here, and very little detail here, more like a list. Completely different videos. You do this at the outline stage, not at the writing stage. Writing is the last thing you do for a paper. It's the final thing. I'm not going to say it's the least important, but it is the final step. Okay? So a few rules about outlines. In order for an outline to be effective, there's a few rules. Okay? One rule is never cross topics. If I have a Y here and I have a Y here, it gets very confusing. So you never put anything about this under here. You keep them separate. That way the reader, or whatever you're doing this outline for, it's organized. So never cross topics. Once you put a topic down, everything underneath it has to be only about that topic. I can't say good foods and then here I'm going to put potato chips. And just say they're bad. You don't do that. You can't put a bad food under a good food section. Never cross topics. Another rule is only add pairs. What do I mean by that? If I'm going to put something underneath as a subtopic, only do it if there's at least 2. For instance, this is not a good outline. Food is medicine because of the Bible. That's not a good outline. If you only have one thing, then you don't say food is medicine because of the Bible. You would say Bible says food is medicine. If I have another reason talking about why food is good, then you see what's happening is you have to be careful that at any level, everything is the same. And that's rule number 3. These go together. Every level is related. These two go together. So, if my first topic says, the Bible says food is medicine, the second topic says food is change, third topic says Joe Blow says food is medicine, that's a problem because I've mixed two different things. I've listed, let me just show you what it would look like and why it feels bad. And then number 3 is Joe says food is medicine. See, the problem is, what's this doing there? The food having changed has nothing to do with the 2 people that say food is medicine. So that's not a good outline. It doesn't make sense. You're going to confuse the reader as he goes to here, and then he goes to here, and this thing is in the middle, and why am I reading this? You're throwing off his train of thought. Writing or presenting something is all about a train of thought. A train is one car after the other where everything builds on what you said before. This completely destroys that. So how do I fix this? If this is what I really want to say, how do I say it? It's real simple. What I do is, food is medicine. Why? Because Bible says so, and because Joe says so. I just fixed my outline. And then the second thought is, food has changed. See the difference? This is a thought. You say, I'm going to tell you why you care about food. One thing is, food is medicine because these 2 sources say it is. Another thing is, food has changed. That's a flow. It makes sense. If I go, I'm going to tell you why food is medicine. 1, because the Bible says so. Number 2, because it's changed a lot. And number 3, because Joe also says so. That's wavering. It's harder to follow. So the rule here is 2 things. Every level has to be related. Every topic at every level has to be related. If these 2 are not Y, then something's wrong. See? These 2 are Y. These 2 is that. If there's anything here, it's that. You can't have this one down here. You can't have this one over here. It matters. And only atom in pairs. If you've only got one reason why food is medicine, then put it as a major topic. Don't put it as a subtopic because it doesn't, again, it breaks the flow. Okay? And the 4th rule is build a flow. Your outline is a flow. You have a starting point and you have an ending point. And everything in the middle, you're leading down to a purpose. That's what an outline is all about. Okay, so let's real quick, let's build an outline together. I want to build an outline about our farm animals. Okay? I'm going to call it Animals at Sprouts. Okay. What do you have for me? The first level is going to be a list of all the animals that we have. So what do we have? Chickens? What else do we have? Goats? What else do we have? Sheep?
Pigs.
Pigs. What do we want to say about our animals? Well, how about breeds? What breeds of chickens do we have?
New Hampshire.
New Hampshires. What else do we have?
Americanas.
Americanas. And on and on.
Okay.
Orpingtons. What else do we care about our chickens? How about what they eat? You see, I'm running out of room. This is why it's good to do this on a computer. But we could have a section here about what they eat. They eat grass, blah, blah, blah. You do the same thing with goats. Okay, what about our goats? Well, we're going to talk about breed. What breeds do we have here?
Nigerians.
What else do we have?
Mini Nubians.
What do they eat? Hay, leaves, blah, blah, blah. You see this neat little outline? We're organizing our thoughts. And if somebody asks, tell me about your farm. What is your farm? Well, here's an outline. It tells you all about our farm. It tells you what breeds we have, what animals we have first, what animals, what breeds, and things about them. So outlines are really handy to organize thoughts for presentations, for papers, for whatever. It's also a great way to document things because it gets your thoughts clear so you can look things up easily. Helps you organize anything that you're toying with. Something like a seed project. This would be a great way to write down seed projects. You know, with your seed project, you could do something like, at your first level, it could be all the types of seeds. Melons, greens, roots. And then at the next level, you could do watermelon and the varieties that you have of that, and on and on. That's a nice way to document. Here's the seeds that we're planting this year. You could even go in and say, okay, when did we plant the melons? So we could, I'll do it down here. We could do, so here we have beets, we have turnips. You could have A is the variety, B is when planted. C could be how much did we harvest? If you kept this outline, you could go through and keep adding information to it by keeping adding sections. And then for the next year, if you want to know, wait a minute, how many seeds did we buy? Maybe D needs to be how many seeds. How many seeds did we buy last year? Well, let me look. That was beets. Okay, that's a root. Under seeds, there was 10,000. And we harvested 1,000 pounds. So now I have a record of everything and it's organized. That's another great use for an outline. Okay, so that's outlines. Very handy. You can use them anywhere in life, and it's things that you can keep, you can work on. It's great to do this on a computer because, as you see, this kind of a problem, when you're doing it in writing, this is an issue. On a computer, you can just add things in anywhere you want. It's really handy to do it that way. Okay? All right, that's it for today.